This is FE Peer Review. The date is August the 12th, 2022. Bad Faith Arguments for Biological Design over Evolution. Godless Engineer is one of the channels I enjoy watching fairly regularly. His focus is primarily on debates between atheists and theists. He comes down on the atheist side, and that's not a subject that I cover on my channel. But this was a particularly interesting video. He was being interviewed by a fellow named Michael Granado, who asked him a very good question, and he gave a very good response. I will encourage you all to go and listen to what he has to say. There will be a link in the description. However, I wanted to take a little bit of a different take on the question Michael Granado asked. My interest in it is not theological. My interest in it is how arguments are structured and how we can gain some insight into the underlying motivation of people in their response.
That there are certain things in nature that, now, of course, 20th century, we got the acceptance of Darwinian evolution, the neo-Darwinian synthesis. Darwinian evolution is now an established scientific theory, right? It's no other competing explanation even comes close. But
Right.
Behe said, even if we grant Darwinian evolution, there are still some things we can observe. I think the examples he gives are usually from microbiology, the structure of the cell, the flagellum. There are still some things that we can observe and point to that can't be explained via natural selection. Therefore, the best explanation we have of these concrete biological entities is that they must have been designed.
My comment will be found on the video, and what I'm going to be doing here is basically reading my comment, but I'm going to give you some larger text in case you want to follow along. 330. How to respond? 1. Can't have evolved due to complexity, or is it that we haven't yet determined how they evolved? We need evidence that they can't have evolved, given that we have a fantastic track record of showing how so many biological components did evolve. At this point, it is more likely we will pinpoint an evolutionary scenario that brings about the complexity than other alternatives. Second point. Note that I said other alternatives, plural alternatives. If we have definitely shown that the complexity could not have resulted from an evolutionary process, which we haven't, then we can't jump to, quote, design as the only alternative. For a start, we have no definitive evidence of design resulting in any natural biological organism. None. Zero. This makes it even more absurd to posit design as the only alternative. I'm inserting a little edit here. When I use the phrase natural biological organism, I was trying to be very precise and clear. I'm not talking about things developed in a laboratory using genetic modification and that sort of process. I am talking strictly about the millions of years of natural evolution that has occurred long before human beings came into existence. Third point. There's a basic flaw in the entire concept of irreducible complexity. Using the eye as an example, it is true that we cannot randomly remove elements of the eye without most likely resulting in an eye that doesn't work. But that's not how evolution happens. It's a unidirectional process, in the sense that we frequently see biological components going from simpler to more complex, a sort of additive process. Taking stuff away generally doesn't happen. Successful mutations rarely, if ever, happen in the direction of reduced complexity. The evolution of something like an eye is an evolution towards greater complexity. So talk of taking things away from the eye bears no relation to actual evolutionary processes. The last point I'd raise is the following. I'd ask, Mr. Michael Behe, and I got the correct spelling, it's Behe, Are you an expert in evolutionary biology with an advanced degree in the subject from a world-class university? I'm guessing you're not. I'm not either. So for you to be using such an argument at all is a bit dubious, since it is outside your area of expertise. Expecting me to be able to defend the evolutionary biology side is also inappropriate, since I'm not an expert in the field. For you to use such an argument with people who don't know much about the subject as a way to try to bring them to your point of view is, in big red letters, intellectually dishonest. And notice that I've also made them bold. That's just in case he doesn't notice. If you want to do this right, you need to gather your crowd and then sit in a controlled debate setting with an evolutionary biologist and have that biologist address every example of supposed irreducible complexity you can think of, and also have that biologist challenge you to show convincing evidence of a single case of design in natural biological organisms. To sum it up, this whole approach that some apologists use is a kind of underhanded, intellectually dishonest approach. And I'm not saying only apologists do this, but it is a regular piece of their arsenal. None of us should be doing this. And that is to take advantage of people's ignorance to feed them information that they couldn't possibly be in a position to refute. So if you're going to make big statements about evolution, you need to have an expert on evolution there to challenge you when you do it. That would be the intellectually honest approach. And that's an approach you will very often not see being used. Anyhow, the actual issues about evolution and the other examples that they were talking about, such as flagella on cells and things like that, Godless Engineer addresses them all really well. I'm not going to bother to go there. My point was more about intellectually dishonest tactics. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this little video. And do check out Godless Engineer if you're not familiar with his channel. I'll warn you, he can be rather, shall we say, irreverent at times. He has a very colorful vocabulary, and I find him very entertaining as well as informative. I hope you do too. Have a great day, everybody. Please do remember to click that like button on your way out the door. And I, as always, love to read your comments. Bye-bye.